Take us off the mute, put us
Okay.
up, read the intro script. Welcome back to the White Gray Black Weekly Manga Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about all of the latest and greatest, sometimes not greatest, ongoing manga releases. My name is Bruce. I'm the proprietor of the White Gray Black YouTube channel. With me again this week is Gautam, my partner in Weekly Manga Crime.
What's up, fellas?
Please keep in mind, for all major discussions, we will be talking spoilers up to the current chapters. Luckily, this week we're doing 2 chapter 1s, but this week we're going to talk about Deus, which is a new chapter 1. We're going to talk about Chainsaw Man, currently on chapter 111. And then the major discussion will be on the Ichinose family's deadly sins, which is another new first chapter. However, we will be talking light spoilers about the author's previous work called Takopi's Original Sin. So let's start out with the news. There was not much this week. I'm not sure why it was that last week we had a solid 10 or 15 minutes of news, and this week there's barely anything, but that's how it works sometimes, I guess. Hajime Isayama, author of Attack on Titan, is in New York City right now, I believe. This weekend is he's going to be at, I think it's NYC Anime Con? Can't remember the exact name of that. Yeah. Anime NYC is what it's called. Yeah, and that is from November 18th to November 20th. So that's this weekend. He is in town for that. I believe I saw posts on Twitter that he is in America. So first time here.
And is it for the final season of Attack on Titan? Or?
He, I think, is just doing a Western panel. I'm sure it is related to the, God, what is it called? Part 3 of the final season, Attack on Titan. So, it has too many titles to it. It should be the last section of the story.
He asked people to be nice to him, even if they hated the ending.
He did, which is interesting. And yeah, we'll see. He's always, I think, since the anime has started airing, he's treated the anime a bit more as the final version of his story. He even admitted that a lot of the things that changed, I'm trying to think, like in the middle of the story, the Crystal Cave arc, that's not really spoilers, that's just a name. That kind of stuff, he definitely updated and changed a lot. And he said that, when I was writing it and went back and looked at it, it wasn't quite the way I wanted it, so I changed some things for the anime. And I think he's been doing that kind of continually. So I expect that, well, I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I was not as negative on the ending as the louder voices in the community were. I will say that. I thought it was fine. I thought it could have used 2 chapters instead of 1, or maybe 50% more length chapter, but I thought it was good generally. I thought it was exactly what I expected to happen in the best way.
I think people like preface like "be nice to me" that kind of stuff because the people on Twitter freak out like to a crazy extent. Like
the extreme voices on the internet are always loudest, and
yeah.
There were it was mostly negative voices and then defenders, so I get it.
Yeah.
I do have a slide on some sales stuff from my acquaintance. This is _Josu_K. That's JOSU_KE. I DM'd him a couple times about using his sales images in my videos, and he gave me permission. So this is the top best-selling manga series for the month of October. Spy Family's in the top, 1.7 million copies sold. It had a new volume, Chainsaw Man number 2, 1.2 million volumes sold. That's up almost 800% from the previous month. That's almost 100% due to anime premiere. My Hero, a little under 1 million, also with a new volume, and then Blue Lock also getting a 400% increase with a new volume and an anime. One Piece holding on strong at number 5 with 500,000 without a new volume, which is insane, but that's just what One Piece does. So yeah, I won't go through the rest of them. You can see them on screen if you're watching, but yeah, sales stuff. Anime does work. 754% increase for Chainsaw Man, and that is sort of the talk of the town on anime forums right now.
I'm actually kind of surprised to see like Kaguya and Dandadan kind of low on the list.
Yeah, keep in mind this is total volumes sold, not all volumes. So that's like, for instance, One Piece has 130 volumes or whatever it is now, and Dan has like what we think, like 8 maybe, something like that. Same thing with Chainsaw Man, right? Chainsaw Man is I think 13 or 14 published volumes. Dan has a lot less, but it did have a new volume. I mean, I would guess that those Dan volumes are all new volumes, right? That's probably majority. That's probably 120 of the 140,000 volumes sold is probably all the new one. So that's good. That's a good first selling.
Yeah, true.
I don't think anything on here is in danger of the axe remotely.
Oh, yeah.
These are the tops. These are all. The one thing that surprised me on here, well, a little surprising, was to see Slam Dunk show up again. I think that's because they got a movie announcement a couple weeks ago, an anime movie announcement for Inoue's Slam Dunk, because that's ended. How long ago did that end? 20 years ago? Maybe not 20 years ago.
A million
10?
years ago. Yeah.
It's,
and they also got a physical re-release. So.
Did they? Okay, yeah. So
yeah.
That, yeah, when did Slam Dunk end? Now I'm curious. Because it's like...
like 90s, maybe?
96. Yeah, okay, that's even older than I thought. I was thinking that was maybe early 2000s, but that's actually insane. That's a 26-year-old series that is finished that is outselling newer things.
Oh, well, have you read it? It's really good.
It is. No, I have read a little bit of it. I read Inoue's other work, Vigilante. Is that what it's called?
It kind of has the Animal House problem of it's a progenitor to everything else. So a lot of tropes you see in like newer sports manga or just manga in general, Slam Dunk did it first, and it feels like you're retreading when you read Slam Dunk, even though it started.
Yeah, I would. Slam Dunk is definitely the Dragon Ball Z of sports manga. I would think is probably the best. Maybe you could compare it to like Fist of the North Star. That was kind of an older one that a lot of shonen take kind of directly from. But Dragon Ball Z is kind of the bigger one, and Slam Dunk for sure is like that. But yeah, that's any other comments on sales here?
No, that looks good to me. Makes sense.
Yep. Interesting to see stuff. Definitely, if you get a new volume, your sales go up. Animes help a ton. Spy Family, Chainsaw Man, Blue Lock, all coming in 3 out of the top 5 spots. All have new animes. I guess My Hero also started its next season airing in that same, so it's also up 500%. So, yeah.
Also,
anime does
I don't know why people don't talk about Kingdom as much. I haven't read Kingdom either, but, like, it's so intensely popular. Like, but no one discusses it in the West, you know?
I think it is it is more Eastern than other, even though manga is from Japan, and Japan is sort of an Eastern country, the fact that Kingdom is like historical China, like, I don't think it hits as hard in the West, just because we don't know any of that history, right? It would be like if someone was writing a comic about the American Revolution, it's like, well, you know, even if you only learn about that a little bit in school, you kind of are like, oh, yeah, okay, I know who George Washington was. Maybe I don't know exactly what he did. I know who, Benedict Arnold was, even though, I don't know the exact story. So when he shows up, it's like, oh, I know who that is. And I think it's the same for Kingdom, right? I think all these generals and combatants show up and people go, oh, yeah, I heard that name in school, in China or Japan or wherever. And so it kind of works for them. And when we read it, it's kind of all new for us. I also think that it doesn't... Does it not have a Western publisher? It might not have a Western physical publication. I'm not sure on that.
It's the same thing with Elusive Samurai, which is another shonen property.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, because I wonder if this even shows up like on Amazon. I don't think it does. Yeah, I don't. If Kingdom is being translated, it's not being pushed very much. And I will say, if looking at the sales number, there's pretty significant drop off, but starting at number 4 or 5 down to number 6, right? Like One Piece, no new volume, is at more than 500,000 sales, and then Kingdom is half of that. So.
I don't really count that though, because One Piece is
but Kingdom is like pretty is like in the same conversation as One Piece for a lot of these. So
Yeah, One Piece it just dwarfs everything like
It
all
really
the
does.
time.
Yeah. I mean, it's
just
gonna
like a weird outlier, you know.
it'll outsell Superman by the end of its run probably, and then
Oh,
Superman will
for
pass
sure.
it because it'll keep being published. But
Yeah.
the next thing I have is Gokurakugai, which is a new-ish series. I think it's about 4 months old. A monthly one is getting a reprint for its volume 1, which I think is good because I like this series a lot.
Is this the trash one?
No, Gokurakugai is the glasses girl with the gun. Let me grab a picture of it.
Yeah. The
And
bayonet.
the guy pulls like a sword out of his chest and becomes a wolf man thing.
Yeah, that was fine.
I have heard the one shot is better than what the monthly series is doing, but I have enjoyed it. I think the art is great. It's an
Character
interesting,
design is great.
yeah, character design's great. It's an interesting setting.
The premise feels like everything else ever.
The premise is, yeah, I wouldn't even necessarily say that the premise is generic. The execution of some of the stuff is a little generic. Like, it's like, okay, they're fighting against, of course, it's like devils or demons in a city, you know. But I don't know. The setting feels a little bit different. The action is good. This is when I can see if this gets if this gets what I'm going to call the MAPPA treatment, right? If MAPPA grabs this and animates it on the level that it's done Jujutsu Kaisen and Chainsaw Man and Attack on Titan and all these things, this one I think will be big. This one is unique enough and has the main female character is every Twitter fan artist's dream.
Actually, yeah.
In the same way that like Your Forger was with Spy Family, like glasses, the gun, very step on me mommy type vibes. She's gonna get clicks if this gets more popular, it gets an anime. So
I personally I think it's just generic in every way. But I think what's the saving grace for it is, like you said, the main female character is
good design, yeah.
Literally just a Black Lagoon character ripped out of that setting and thrown into another.
That's a good comparison. Very similar to what's her name, Revi in Black Lagoon.
No, it's like the blonde Russian lady in Black Lagoon. I forgot, but it's like pretty much the same character design.
Yeah.
But it's a good one, you know. So I'm here for it.
It does have definitely the very. Okay, I'm not gonna. But yeah, there's. Yeah, Gokurakugai right there. So yeah, I think that series is okay. I liked the first chapter the most, and I haven't liked as many of the other chapters since. So who knows if it keeps up its quality or not? But yeah, so
yeah.
And then Fujimoto, I believe. So we will not dive into what is happening to Twitter right now too much. But part of the fallout of what is happening to the Twitter buyout with Elon Musk, changes, firing of people, massive layoffs, is I think Fujimoto's Twitter got banned because he, on his previous Twitter, pretends to be his 12-year-old sister. Was that right?
I don't... What? Does he?
Have you not heard about this?
No, that's insane. That's crazy.
You're just talking about, because you're talking about his new Twitter, right? Where he's like trying to get verified as the author. I am the author of Chainsaw Man. Here is like development work I did on character art, and it like won't verify him. Yeah, no, he's doing all that. That's funny that you didn't know this. He's doing all that because his previous Twitter account, which is a Twitter account where he pretends to be his 12-year-old sister, which I don't even think he has a 12-year-old sister. I think he just is like, that's the joke. Got banned for being like underage or something, right? Like you're not supposed to be on Twitter unless you're, I don't know, 14 or 16 or 18 or something. I have no idea. But that account got banned, so he couldn't post on Twitter anymore. And so he tried to make a new one. And then he had to get that verified by like posting art that was like Chainsaw Man development of like, look, yes, this is actually me. Please verify me.
So weird. What a strange dude.
He is a very strange dude. I'm happy that he exists.
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny.
But is there any other news you've heard about this week to talk about? Like fairly.
Honestly, no, not really.
It's pretty light. I mean, end of the month stuff, but other than that, I think going into holiday season and Christmas, there'll be kind of less moves coming out. Although as we get closer to the first of the year, we might get a couple more anime adaptation announcements, possibly stuff for upcoming winter and spring. So
Yeah, we'll probably get like studios for Monster 8, One Punch Man season 3, like stuff like that.
Yeah, and Frieren also does not, I don't think, has a studio attached to it. We just know it is getting an anime adaptation.
Yeah.
So there's also a leak of Dan to Dan. I don't know if that was ever confirmed. That also doesn't have a studio attached to it. Those are all up in the air right now of who's adapting them. So I would guess we get those coming up in the next 3 or 4 months. So
yeah, and new shonen stuff.
I mean, so we got Ichinose Family's Deadly Sins, which is the first of 4 new series that will be premiering in Shonen Jump. In the next 3 weeks, we will be getting 1 new series a week, I believe. So that'll be fun. That will probably be our next 4 weeks of main discussions. Will be those new series just to kind of kick them off and see how they're going.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. So before we get into the bulk of it, some quick thoughts. You had something to say about Medaka.
Yeah, it sucks.
You think it just sucks now? I think it had a bad arc, and I will deal with bad arcs.
I think every chapter since that arc has started, including this one, has been bad.
Yeah.
Like,
so this is we're talking about Kuryo Medaka ni Watashi no Kawaii, which is what my charms are wasted on Kuryo Medaka, which is a harem. I believe I will classify it as a harem now. I don't know if I would have early on, but I think it's pretty solidly in the harem category now. A harem rom-com.
And it just doesn't work as a harem because it's like the main character is so wooden plank.
It's so
it's just not good. The last arc was bad, and it started out strong. I thought it
started out great. I really liked the first 30 or 40 chapters of it for sure.
Yeah. I saw that you were going to talk about Ginka and Gluna, so I was just like, you know what? Let me pile on what I think slid downhill as well. It's not going great. I wouldn't recommend this manga at the moment. Hopefully, it gets better.
Lights on. Okay. Yeah, I like to give new series at least 1 volume to really sell me, right? Which usually means I read somewhere between 5 and 10 chapters. This, I think, was the 10th chapter for Ginka and Gluna. I like the way it started. I like the art. I think the ideas are good. I like that it's set in a fantasy land and not Japan. I have a lot of issues with every fantasy series just being Japan plus fantasy, which is kind of uninteresting. It moved too fast. It like a runaway pace is like that's a phrase I think I used in a video and I've heard it a billion times, but like this one did like an entire story arc every chapter, like introducing new characters, resolving their stuff by the end of the chapter. It was insane. And like we've now met, I think, the main antagonist who like
he's a good guy.
But he's a good guy now, but he's the guy who split up
that's not
Ginka,
right? That's just one of his pals from when Ginka was powerful, when he was a strong wizard. It's just like one of his rivals.
Also, people pointed out, I don't think I noticed it, but there were like the 2 other girls who were traveling with him up until like 2 chapters ago, and they just did not show up at all in this chapter, and they like slept. The main characters like slept and just ignored them. Yeah, I think I'll keep reading it.
Chapter. They went and got potatoes with her.
No, not the 2 little girls. The like wild girl and the girl from the city. Those 2 girls.
I forgot about them. yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they just were not in this chapter, and Ginka and Gluna were like doing stuff. They're just not in it. So I think I'll keep reading it because I think it's an easy read. It's on the big downslide for me, so it's not.
Well, the thing is, like, I think we talked about this, but we kind of understood where that lightning fast pace was coming from at the very beginning.
Yeah, for the first 3 or 4 chapters, yeah.
But it doesn't seem like it's ever going to take a beat. You know, it seems like it's always going to go super fast. Like I feel like we could use more on that fight with this dude and the backstory between him and Ginka, and like, you know, like take your time on this. But suddenly he's setting up like, oh, well, there are these 2 other people that are almost as strong as me and they'll fucking hate you. You know, it's like, we're moving on to the next thing way too fast again. Yeah.
And this is kind of rare. Like most manga, I think, if they suffer from pacing issues, it's from going too slowly. Like, it's from spending too much time doing something, or an arc drags on. I mean, we complained about, like, the Ranger Reject Garage arc. It's like, that was bad because it was too long. It had too much stuff in it. Yeah. Very rarely do I say, like, there's not enough here. It's going too fast. Like, I'm a big proponent of edit things down, make them short and snappy, but this is like pump the brakes, my dude. Like, yeah.
Oh, this is Red Hood PTSD, the manga, because Red Hood took like 5 chapters or 6 chapters in their like first little village, and a lot of people think that's what got it the axe because it went too slow at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I feel like this author's like, got to learn from that, and it's just like speed running their own manga at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, we could drill it in, but.
It has like a lot of potential though, right? Like I feel like the characters are fun, the world is fun. He just has to get this thing under control a little bit.
This might be one of those things that Ginka and Gluna might fail, and I think that's okay. This might be one of those things where the second or third attempt by this author is really good. After they kind of figure out, like, okay, I messed up by doing, by going too fast, by not expanding on character stuff enough or whatever. I think that maybe the second, maybe the thing they do after Ginka and Gluna will be good. I will say that even though maybe you dropped it and I'll drop it in a couple of weeks, I still, it's caught my eye enough and caught my interest enough. It's an original idea. I like the characters. I think they're well expressed. I think the action and the art is great. So if they do another series, I'm curious to see that. I mean, lots of hyper successful mangaka do not make it with their first or second or third series. What's his name? Who does Spy Family did
Endo.
Endo. He did 2 or 3 things which were either short, like 6 or 8 chapters, or canceled before they really ever got off the ground. And they were good. I've read them, and they're still pretty decent. They're not perfect. They're not as good as Spy Family is for sure, but it took him a couple of tries. And I think you're both lucky and done a great disservice if one of your first or second or early tries is in Weekly Shonen Jump as like a main series. Because on one hand, cool, you get your stuff in front of way more people. You have the chance that if you are really good, it takes off. But also, you get a lot of publicity that can affect you emotionally, I think. I wonder how the authors of like Dorororon, people like that, where it's just like, yeah, just nobody liked your stuff. Sorry, you got 30, 35 chapters and you're done. Is that? I don't know if that's good for them or not.
Oh, I think getting published in Weekly Shonen Jump, unless you're like a very specific Oda-like person, is just an easy way to speedrun hating your job.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think that's what's happening to Horikoshi right now. It's
well,
brutal.
He's been years. Yeah. I do think that it's
burnout,
It's definitely because it's like getting cast in a Marvel movie or a Star Wars movie, right? It's like there's more eyes on it. There's more critics. There's more extremists on whatever side that might not like you or would like you.
And you sleep 5 hours a day and you're stuck in home all day. That's the difference, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. The other difference is, hey, you owe us 20 pages a week and you have to give it to us because, you can't. But yeah,
also,
it's interesting.
Jump has like a 3-strike rule, I believe. I don't know how that works with already published stuff that gets canceled, but I know if you like turn in your manuscript to them 3 times and the editors like reject it, you don't get it.
Oh, really? That kind of doesn't. I don't know. That doesn't surprise me. I would love to live in a world where I learned fully Japanese, how to speak it, went to Japan, could interview the internal systems of Weekly Shonen Jump or any big publisher, just to see how it works. Because I sort of know how the system works, but to actually get in there and be like, what are the editors doing? What is what gets sent to press? When does it happen? How early does they need to turn stuff in? Like,
read Bakuman.
Yeah, I know Bakuman. I watched the anime for maybe 15 or 20 episodes of Bakuman. It's good. I don't think I actually got to them being like really published. They were still like trying to be published or whatever, but
the manga's interesting. They get published and axed like a few times. So
really?
It's like Yeah. It's
I definitely should.
an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
It's the people who made Death Note, so.
Yeah, that's good. Did you want to call out Reiji here, the author of Rental Girlfriend?
I actually wanted to ask you why he's insane.
No, so you sent me this picture.
He does this a lot. Like, I mean,
yes, no, he does. He does do this a lot. And let me open original so I don't have to share Discord. Yeah, no, this is like, you were like, why does he draw the main female character of his romance manga in real life, like in his house? And I'm like, oh, he's been doing this for years. Like I've been reading, I don't know, how long have I been reading this? Maybe 3 years, 3.5 years I've been reading Rental Girlfriend. Yeah, he does this like, maybe not once a month, but like once every couple of months he just draws, what's her name?
For why? For what purpose? He has a family. Why is he?
He does.
So
he's
horny
married.
for
He has
his
children.
characters?
I don't know. I think he's a genius. If we're being honest, I think Reiji knows exactly what he's doing.
I think you're just Reiji pilled, where you're just subscribed to his insanity at this point. This is like a Stockholm syndrome kind of situation.
I don't know, man. If I could find, like, let me, like, because he posts these on Twitter, right? I bet the interaction he gets on the tweets, where he tweets out this girl, like, drawn into real life as opposed to his other tweets, I bet it's insane. I bet it's like just so much more interaction when he does.
I mean, he's not a Twitter influencer. Like, he's not making his money from Twitter. Like, the interaction might be huge, but it's just people being like, bro.
So here's a comparison I'll put on screen. Here you go. This is a tweet about the new chapter, which was or the chapter a week ago, right? About 2,000 likes, 200 retweets. Here's just a picture he drew of her on a train. Almost 40,000 likes. 3,500 retweets. Like, it's insane how much more. And like, this is publicity. This is genius publicity in my mind. Like, he knows. He knows, right? Like, every time he draws one of these pictures, he gets new eyes on it. It trends on Japanese Twitter, probably. He's a genius. He knows it.
Yeah, okay, but like, if Edgar Wright like tweets like, hey, watch my new movie One Night in Soho, he'll get like 2K likes. But if Edgar Wright also says, hey, here's a picture of me in a diaper, he would of course get like 50,000 likes. You know, it's like,
yeah, congratulations, you figured out Twitter. Yes, absolutely. You're exactly right.
I don't get it, man.
Yeah, I don't know. We can move on from Twitter thoughts.
I guess we can. But yeah, I don't know. This guy's nuts.
I think he's genius. I think publicity wise, he's genius. He knows if he just draws cute girls and puts them, and people like you, he knows what sells. He knows that at the end of the day, sex sells. Draw sexy girls, move on. The man is one of, if not the best-selling rom-com. It's probably behind Kaguya and maybe a few others, but like Rental Girlfriend is one of, is definitely, I think, in the top 5 best-selling rom-coms, at least shonen rom-coms in Japan right now. So,
I don't read it, but I hear it's just like a cuckold simulator.
It's not. People do not understand how it works. We'll talk. I will bring this some week soon, right?
Yeah, bring it some week.
I will bring it some week, and we'll talk more about it. I think he's better than a lot of romance authors. I think he understands characters and his arcs. You have to realize, I talked about how I like to give one volume, 8 to 10 chapters before I make my judgments on things. People do not understand that this man does not do movement in his story except for once a volume, sometimes at the beginning and end, sometimes twice a volume, right?
I gotta say,
you have to wait 8 to 10 chapters for anything to happen, and people always complain about those middle 6 or 7 chapters, and I'm like, you do not understand. He has done this the whole time. It takes 8 to 10 chapters for something to happen, because that is what he does. He wants you to read one volume, and you get to that last chapter in the volume, and you go, oh my gosh, something happened, something big. Wow, I have to read the next volume. That's why he's a genius.
That is such a shitty sell that
I think it's fine. I mean, I don't know. I'll talk about it more later. It's historically the way that these type of stories have been published, and it works. And I think people just do not understand the way that a serial story is published and the way that the way you have to think about a serial in that way. But anyways,
I'll give it a crack on the week we discuss it.
You don't have to.
I won't have biases, but I'm probably going to hate it.
I mean, if you don't, I think the start of it is really good. I think the first 40 or 50 chapters are like super great rom-com. So I'll bring it. We'll bring it at some point. I'll bring it.
We'll bring it back around.
But yes, but let's talk about. Yeah, but let's. I went first last week, so you go first this week. You have brought a new chapter 1 for something called Deus.
Yeah. So Deus had a strong first chapter. It had like a realistic art style. Basically, I don't even think a description would.
It's really hard to put into words. Yeah, and this is by just a Twitter user whose tag is at Basius9, Bacius, the number 9. Because I was looking for the author of this, and it's just a Twitter tag from what I can see. So.
Oh, okay. Are they published or?
I mean, their earlier one shot was published, which I wrote in, which was just called Andy, right? That was the weird chicken god thing.
I actually didn't read that one.
Did you not? You should go read that. It's
is it good? Yeah.
I mean, it's like 22 pages, but yeah, it's as interesting as this chapter was, I would say.
Yeah. So this kind of like hits all the things I like. It's kind of obtuse. It's not easily understood. It's just standard Lovecraft stuff, with a kind of Junji Ito art style where the characters are
pretty realistically displayed.
Yeah, realistically displayed. Some of them are intentionally ugly or grimly drawn. Lots of black lines, and yeah, as you can see from that page, it's just
a little bit Kafka-esque with my family turned into slugs type thing.
Oh yeah, very Kafka. Yeah. I feel like the word Kafka-esque it's
a little overused, but this is pretty straightforward.
Ruined by that word, by that episode of Breaking Bad for me. But yeah, it's very much Kafka-esque. Metamorphosis. Yeah, it felt very similar to that. I don't know how long something like this can run, but I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yeah, and I don't even know. It's hard to tell. I mean, you realize we're getting secondhand fan translated versions usually when we discuss these in English. This might have just been published on Twitter. I don't know if this was published in a magazine or not. It did say chapter 1, so I'm assuming it was published somewhere. But yeah, do you want to give just a quick? Can you give a quick plot synopsis of what this is in chapter 1? Yeah, I mean, spoilers are okay, right? It's the first chapter, so
yeah. So this little girl is at a zoo with her dad, and she sees this giant creature, and she's like, "Dad, what is that?" And he's like, "Oh, it's an elephant." But then we see it's actually this weird hovering chimera thing in that panel. Then it time skips to where she's in high school. Her family has turned into snails, and they're slowly losing their sanity, and she's breaking down over it. Her family joined some weird cult and turned into snails, and her little brother turned into one too, even though he's only 8. And then she runs into this like priest type character who says that they're too gone to be saved and they're slowly losing their sanity. So she buys salt, gives it to him, and he puts her family out of their misery. And then at the end of the chapter, it's revealed that the priest wants to see the giant chimera monster that she saw when she was a kid. So she has some kind of supernatural like vision or power or something like that. That's the description. You can gain more out of it just reading it, but
yeah, there's a lot of visual. It does a lot of cool visual storytelling, I guess. I mean, it's a manga, so like of course it is. But like for instance, this panel here where she's meeting the priest that you were talking about, it's very much implied that he is also some kind of eldritch monster horror thing. From these panels, right? You've got, hello, and then there's like floating tendrils hanging over a huge shadow. Her eyes are wide, and the next panel she's looking at, a normal dude, a guy in a jacket. So, and it does that a couple times where you kind of get a visual reveal that, oh, that panel is very strange. What is that? And the next one, it's like, oh, it's just normal. He does this if and when you read that one shot called Andy. This happens also in that, and it to similar similar effect.
Either way, it felt like not a standard Twitter thing because it seemed pretty polished, like art-wise.
It definitely does, yeah.
So I'm curious to see where it goes from here.
Hopefully yeah, I'm too. I'm gonna guess this mystery. Yeah, I'm gonna guess this is probably a limited series. I'm gonna guess this is 10 to 20 chapters. This doesn't seem like a 90 chapter thing, just because of how much happened and how, I guess, niche it is. But who knows?
I gotta say, Bruce, we say that about a lot of things, and then they end up on like chapter 90.
Yeah. What was the last thing that we thought? Oh, this might just be a couple.
Oshinoko. We're like,
yeah, we were definitely wrong about that one. But also, we said that before they like time skipped to high school and started doing things. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, just off topic here. Do you remember, like, have you heard more of like the Human Z thing?
I read the new chapter 2 or 3 weeks ago. I believe it's monthly.
Okay.
I think the fan translations were behind a week or two, so when we caught up on it, I think we got a new chapter. We got like 2 new chapters for 2 weeks in a row. I think we're either caught up or only one or two behind. Yeah, what is that actually called?
Charlie the Human Z.
The Darwin incident? Yeah. Darwin.
Okay.
That's what the name is. But yeah, the Human Z.
It has no right to be pretty dang good, like it is. It's borderline unpitchable. Like describing
it's weird.
To people.
I mean, yeah. It's like, what if Planet of the Apes, but less war and more veganism?
Yeah, more veganism, and the vegans are terrorists, and someone had sex with a chimpanzee.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway,
I don't know.
It's an award-winning manga. Yeah.
It did. It won the like best. I don't remember which award, but it won one of the best new manga things over some pretty notable selling stuff. But
yeah,
it showed up. I'm trying to remember. It showed up maybe last month or the month before on one of the best-selling lists, like towards the bottom. But it's selling. I think it's here to stay. You win something like that, publishers are usually going to give you a chance to keep going for at least a year, I would say. So.
Oh yeah, and honestly, like I don't expect it to be topping any charts. It's way too weird and niche. So.
Yeah. All right. Anything else to say about Deus?
No. Until we get more of it, that's all I had to say. It's interesting, so let's see where it goes.
Yep. If you're a fan of Bloodborne or any other Eldritch horror stuff, I think this is the thing that'll grab you even more than Junji Ito, who's only kind of a little bit in that realm. Have you seen
Uzumaki? He's very in that realm. He's
more into just straight body horror than he is the like elder god, greater power type thing, I would say. But
check out Uzumaki. That's very.
I'm not gonna do that. I hate horror. So.
Oh yeah, that's fair. It's
I read The Secret of Amagami Fault.
Oh, I love that one. Yeah.
No, I mean it's good. It is well executed at what it does, and I hated it. I think I've seen a couple. I see a couple pages from Ito, and I'm just like, no, I do not want this. I'm not big into horror movies or horror stuff.
It's that's a great one to start out for.
He is a master at his craft, and I am not a fan of what he is crafting. So
that's fair.
Cool. So without spending too much time on it, so we can get to the main part, I'll bring Chainsaw Man this week because we have not talked about Chainsaw Man technically. So we got a resolution to the kind of big devil arc. Chainsaw Man showed up, fought off the devil and stuff. How are you liking part 2 so far? Let's just start with that.
I'm liking it a lot, and it's slower paced for sure. But I think that works to like great benefit in building up characters like Asa and the War Devil, and gosh, why am I forgetting her name?
Yoru
the chick who in this page right now.
What is her name? I don't remember either.
I say I like that they build up this character, but I forgot her name. But
it's hard. Japanese names are hard. But
yeah. I like the slow build up, and I like the intrigue. I like that Denji was only in like 2 chapters so far.
Yeah, he's only really been in like 2 or 3, and his time on screen has been very low. So
I think that works because Denji is kind of like the Charlie Kelly wild card of the series, so everyone else has to have the agency and pull the strings around him for him to be properly the wild card and do something insane.
Yeah, I definitely think it was super smart of Fujimoto to not just start part 2 with what is Denji doing. Here's a catch up on time skip. Here's where all the old characters you loved were. I think focusing on a new focus character for this is so smart and so well done. I also think because I reread the majority of the first part of Chainsaw Man a couple of months ago, maybe 2 months ago, for a video. This feels very similar to the first 15 or 20 chapters of the first Chainsaw Man, I would say, where it's kind of like, okay, you get 2 or 3 chapters of fighting, and then there's kind of falling action, and people talk stuff out, and it's interesting and character focused. It much slower than sort of the final 20 or 30 chapters, which is what a lot of people, which is where a lot of people think it's like Chainsaw Man really shines as the ending to part 1, right? And I agree. That is definitely like the best part of the series. But this is very similar to the start of the series, which I think is still good. So, yeah, I mean, I'm liking it too. What do you think? What do you think about the reveal at the end of this chapter, where Chainsaw
right?
Man appears while we see in a panel before that Denji is sleeping, everyone is sleeping, and then Chainsaw Man appears and cuts the new devil's head off.
Well, on one hand, it's morning time when she dies. I'm still spacing on her name, but when she dies, it's morning time and everyone else is asleep at night. So that makes it seem like it could be Denji, but it's not Denji because Denji only does stuff for the fame of it, you know?
Yeah, it also kind of looks, and we're gonna spoil part 1 of Chainsaw Man. Wait, I have a spoiler thing I can put up. We'll spoil part 1 of Chainsaw Man a little bit, but to me, this shadow looks like what do you even call it from the end of part 1? The sort of unleashed Pochita Chainsaw Man? Yeah, not the Denji Chainsaw Man hybrid, but the like pure. It looks a little bit more like that to me, doesn't it? I mean, it looks more broad-shouldered. Maybe I'm reading into the art a little bit too much. It's a shadow, and it's a single line, but looks a little bit bigger. Its mouth looks. I mean, I know that the mouth looks like that. It looks a little bit more intense. I don't know. That's my take on it. Is that this is either someone else controlling Denji, or an unleashed version, or a different version. There's some interesting theories I read online, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, and I think it points that it's not Denji by the Chainsaw Man question mark that we see here. The fact that it's not his usual like style to kill someone like that,
for sure, not,
without any glory or attention. But I remember in the original series, like the first series, they mentioned that Chainsaw Man will help anyone out that asks for help and then kill them. So
that's true.
That might be a stretch. I have no idea. So yeah, I guess we'll see.
I'm also looking at this picture, and does it ever show? Look at the arm that's holding her leg up. You see how it's bleeding? I don't remember if that happens to Denji.
It does.
I mean, I know that it's like violent when they come out, but I don't know if I've ever seen like, oh, the blades are gone now. Are his arms bleeding like that? I don't know if we've ever seen something.
I believe they are, but I don't know. I'd have to go back and look.
Gotcha.
Because they're like Wolverine, where they come out of his arms. Like
that makes sense to me. That's probably reading. Okay, one last thing on this, which is a theory I read in a Reddit comments. So take that as you will. The theory is that devils are based on sort of fears or things people are afraid of, and they get stronger the more you're afraid of them. So, for instance, the chainsaw devil would be how much people are afraid of chainsaws. The darkness devil is how afraid people are of darkness. That's why it's very strong. The theory says Denji is not the chainsaw devil. Denji is he's not a hybrid with the chainsaw devil, so he is Chainsaw Man. What Denji is a hybrid with is the Chainsaw Man devil. So instead of fear of chainsaws, Denji is the power of fear of Chainsaw Man. Did you read this? Have you thought about this at all?
I did read that in the comments, but I feel like that's convoluted. Like, I get it, but it's like
too, yeah.
I feel like it's too convoluted for something like this. I know Fujimoto's Buck Wild, but it seems like a Hideo Kojima explanation, you know?
Yeah, I kind of agree. It would be interesting. I will say that I do not think there are hints towards this. I think this is one of those. I hope this does not turn into one of those things that fans, Reddit commenters, Twitter users, whatever, grab onto, and then when it doesn't turn out to be true, they're mad about it. That's happened a lot with stuff like Attack on Titan, which is good on foreshadowing. Do you think it's true? We'll do the short of it.
Nah.
What's your percent chance that it is true?
10%.
10%? Okay. I'll give it 25. There's like a 1 in 4 chance that, yeah, maybe Denji is the Chainsaw Man devil and the Chainsaw Devil is something different, and maybe that's what we're looking at. But it seems unlikely to me. I think it's interesting. I think I think we would have seen more hints of something like that. I just can't think of a single hint that would confirm that this was true. Other than the fact that I think this panel we're looking at not Denji or Denji under control or something different going on here. So,
or like some mimicry or something. Who knows? I think it's called Chainsaw Man mainly because it's a cool title. Instead of being called like the Chainsaw Devil. I think that's the main reason that the series is called Chainsaw Man.
Yeah,
and
also,
I guess the in-universe reason is because Pochita looks like a humanoid when transformed into the Chainsaw Devil.
Right. I mean, there's also there's so many issues with like cascading. Like, okay, you have, let's just use the Darkness Devil. Okay, well, so people are afraid of darkness, so that makes the Darkness Devil stronger. And then you introduce the Darkness Devil. Well, now people are afraid of the Darkness Devil, so now there's a Darkness Devil. If that gets stronger, okay, well, now people are afraid of the Darkness Devil. And now there's a Darkness Devil. Now there's 3 layers because people are afraid of 3 separate things, right? They're afraid of darkness, they're afraid of the Darkness Devil, and they're afraid of the Darkness Devil. And it's like, that just would cascade forever, so I don't know. That's kind of my logistical, no way this is true. But
yeah, and I mean, like, logically it makes sense with the rules set up, but like story-wise, that's like too insane and convoluted for it to be
it doesn't jive with what Fujimoto's done in the past. Though, like I said, I think there's a small chance it's true. We might see more evidence for it after this. Who knows? But anything else on Chainsaw Man?
Yeah, so like I think it's interesting, like how much things are feared become like their power. So the Darkness Devil is like probably one of the strongest ones. Chainsaw Man is feared by all devils, which is why he's so strong, even if he's revered by humans. And like they're going with this Horseman of the Apocalypse type situation where there's like war and they showed death briefly, or what we speculate to be death.
Yeah, we don't know who that is. That again is, I think, one of those fan theories that everyone latches like, oh my gosh, it's death or pestilence. It has to be, and it's like maybe it's not. Who knows? Like nothing.
Yeah, maybe it's not, but I buy that one just from the similar eye shape or whatever. With that said, like that would be like an incredibly strong devil because people are terrified of death, and
yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Death, war, pestilence. Those are all things to be afraid of, for sure.
And the strongest devil of them all, the public speaking devil.
That's so funny you say that. I never even thought of that, but that would literally be, that's the number one fear, and it has been for 40 years now, is public speaking. Yeah, people are actually legitimately, maybe not more afraid of public speaking than death, but there are more people that put public speaking as their number one fear than they are afraid of like just dying or driving or anything that are like actually have a chance to kill them. God, that's funny.
It's so funny. There's no way you can write that into the story, but it would be a good joke.
That honestly, that is something Fujimoto would do, though. Would be put the public speaking devil in there. All right, so main talk is the Ichinose family's deadly sins. This is a new Chapter 1 story and art by Taizan 5. You may have heard of Taizan 5 from their previous work, which was called Takopi's Original Sin. I think it was Gigak or Joey Anime Man. They mentioned this they had a whole video about this. Or was it, might have been Super Eye Patch Wolf, might have been John. One of these big anime YouTubers did a video on Takopi's Original Sin. That got a lot of views, so it's in the public arena. This is chapter 1. The main character, whose name I don't remember because he also doesn't remember it. I should really write down the older brother, right? He's sort of the main character presented. He wakes up in the hospital. He has amnesia. It turns out that his whole family has amnesia, right? So his younger sister, his mom, dad, and his grandparents all have amnesia. They do this kind of cutesy, like, let's pretend, let's try to remember when we went on vacation together. Maybe we'll all remember something. They do this kind of we went to Okinawa thing. The little sister doesn't really want to play around. He brings her around. It's like very cute, very positive. It kind of reads like a one-shot. It's very good. And then at the end, they're all smiling, even though they all have amnesia. At the end, they get home, and they all have separate rooms. There's 6 separate rooms in their house. And the main character just has the kanji for die written over and over on his room. And he has, like, I think a picture of his family with all their faces with the kanji for die on them, X'd out. It's trashy. The whole apartment is trashy. The end reveal twist is that maybe, you think you've met these really positive people who are fun and caring, and they just forgot who they were. And the idea is that, like, well, maybe, the title of it is the Ichinose family's deadly sins. Maybe these people are all shitty.
Yeah, really compelling first chapter, honestly.
I liked it a lot.
I think it's a strong start. It can't nearly go as dark as Takopi's Original Sin, because this is a jump.
Takopi's Original Sin was Jump Plus, but yeah, this is in main Jump, so I would guess that it'll be a little bit lighter. Also, we'll just reference Takopi a little bit, not too many spoilers, but major theme in Takopi's Original Sin was child abuse by parents, right? Like, all 3 of the main characters in that are massively abused by their parents, physically, mentally, emotionally, and otherwise. Because we have, I think, some adults as main characters, and the kids are a little bit older, we'll hopefully dodge and sidestep that a little bit. So,
yeah, I just don't see that level of, like, child abuse flying in Shonen Jump.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I do think this is gonna get dark. I just don't. I don't think all 6 of them are going to be child abusers the way that in Takopi's Original Sin, all of the characters were just abused as children and abused in turn after that. I think this will be more. There will be different sins committed in this one, is my guess. But I really like the art. It's a really neat style. The sort of twist at the end is compelling, in my opinion. You kind of like all these super positive people. You want them to. You want to know who they are now. They also want to know who you are. I think that's it is a super good writing angle to take where both the reader and the character inside the story are interested in the same mystery, right? And that's something that a lot of, not necessarily mystery writers, because they're actually pretty good at it, but a lot of other kind of mysterious plot hooks, I guess you could say, are bad at, where it's like, okay, maybe the characters inside the story care a lot, but me as a reader, like, why do I care? I know that, sometimes the reader has the information and the character inside the story doesn't, right? That's dramatic irony. Mm-hmm. But in this one, right, like, they want to know who they were, or at least they were interested at the start, and the reader also really wants to know who they are. I mean, this last panel I love because it's got sort of ghostly, visages behind them of who they used to be. And who they used to be looks very different from sort of who they are presented as in the start of the story.
Yeah, Grandma had a style and scarf, man. She used to be a badass. But yeah, I haven't really read the comments on this too much. I did see someone saying, like, this is a game of Among Us where someone is like a traitor or something like that. But yeah. I think, having read Takopi's Original Sin, I'm not sure that's what the author will go for. Clearly, it's based on the 7 deadly sins, so they probably each. It's called Deadly Sins, and Japan loves the 7 deadly sins.
That's true. They do. They do like. So they do like that angle a lot.
Yeah, so I have to imagine this is going to be a character focus on which they all encapsulate. And I think Takopi was less about like any kind of mysterious intrigue and more about growing.
For sure. Takopi is super character focused. Just there isn't really much mystery in Takopi. It's compelling for you follow the characters. You want to know what's going to happen. How are they going to get out of this death or this abuse or pass on the abuse or whatever. This does seem like a different type of story.
Yeah, and it's too early to guess, but my guess is that it'll be something along the lines of the 7 deadly sins, and they encapsulate one each or something like that, and how they have to grow from the past and not like be who they used to be, something like that.
But there's only 6 of them, Gautam. How do you explain that?
You forgot about the NEET who didn't go on the family trip and is still in their room right now. Yeah,
I've seen. I did read the comments on this a little bit. There were some interesting theories about like you said, one of them is a traitor, or the interesting one that I saw was that the only one of these characters with real amnesia is the main character, the older brother boy that we see, and all of the other characters don't actually have amnesia. They just want to forget and start over for some reason, which I thought was probably not true, but interesting.
I give that like a 5% chance.
I would say also probably 5% or 1%.
Because if that's the case, they're all just putting on an act at this table right now just for him. It's like, right, I don't know. That's hard to believe. But I did think it was like interesting that their apartment was super long, and they all had their own individual rooms, and they all commented on how that was weird.
It is that is very weird. I mean, Japan apartments are different, but mother and father, grandma, grandpa, not all, not staying together. They all have their different little rooms, and apparently in the story at the end, it makes it seem like they all found discomforting, strange things in their rooms, right? Which they weren't expecting. I mean, what do you expect when you have amnesia? But they obviously were not expecting to see, like for instance, we saw the die on the boys' walls, and this is not what he was expecting. I think he came off as a very positive character.
Yeah, and his own face is scratched out in the picture as well. So
that's true. Yeah.
Interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah, this one is, I was not sure if I would like Takopi. Darker media is compelling and interesting to me. I usually read manga for escapism, which is why I like shonen, fantasy, rom-com, stuff like that. But I really like Takopi's Original Sin. I thought this is kind of spoilers for the end of it, but not super detailed. I think that as dark and as abusive as the first 15 chapters of that story are, the impact of the sort of brightness and positivity of the final chapter is the most impactful part. So I would predict something similar here. I would predict that it gets very dark, and then at the end, either at the end of the arc for a character or at the end of the series, we end up with some kind of bright, positive message from it. I don't think Taizen 5 is a like torture fetishist type of person. I don't think they're not Junji Ito, right? They're not here to just scare and torture you and get into your mind and make you feel negative things. Takopi's Original Sin was very much about that ending, which is positive, right? So
I don't know. They were all pretty happy going in that hole in the Amigara Fault one shot. So your definition of happiness, you're kind of pushing that.
Were they happy when they came out the other side, though?
I don't know.
I don't think they were, my dude.
I thought I saw a smile there somewhere. I think
part of me wants to. Part of me knows that for entertainment purposes, I should bring up the final page of Amagami Fault, which is when you see them coming out the other side. I will not do that.
Speaking of Takopi, I think the whole thing would have been lesser, like, of a work, or just worse in general if it didn't have that happy ending.
For sure. I mean, that's the point of it, right? Yeah.
And I like that it wasn't even a pitch perfect ending where the two girls got along despite their shitty life circumstances. They kind of,
yeah. I mean, the blonde girl still has her facial scar that her mother gave her at some point, but now
and her mom is still shitty. Yeah, exactly. Like,
yeah.
So, it was like I I wouldn't even call it bittersweet. It's just like accepting and growing. It was just sweet.
Yeah.
Even though their lives were still kind of had shitty parts in them. So I thought it was just very well done. So I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I read it only last night and thought it was, I mean, just wonderful. This is another reason, and I'll talk about this because I think my next video is going to be review system or a review of some kind where I talk about it. But I won't ever do an official review of something that isn't complete, because if I had only read 14 or 15 chapters of Takopi and tried to give you a rating on it, I don't even know what that would look like, right? Because the ending is so important to the story, ties it all together. It's all the meaning. It's all in that last chapter or two with Takopi. So the concern for that with the Ichinose family's Deadly Sins is that if this is a longer version of Takopi, or if there's more suffering before we get some kind of happy ending resolution, character growth, whatever you want it to be, I don't know how much of that I can take. I think I don't know. Takopi is
emotionally exhausting.
It is absolutely exhausting. It is especially exhausting when it's 10 minutes of your day every week amongst other more fun things. I was okay sitting down and reading all of Takopi. It took me about an hour. Because I knew that it ended and I knew where the end was. And for something like this to be sort of emotionally taxing and to not know when it's ending has a different sort of feel to it. So I hope that it can keep me interested and intrigued and not feeling too down. That is my biggest concern for this going forward.
Just the vibe I got, this seems way less dark. Like significantly less dark. This felt like a dark comedy to me. Even based on like this page's reaction faces where they're just like, oh, what the fuck?
I can see that too, yeah. Takopi was not really funny at all. I guess the actual Takopi character was like a little goofy and silly, but...
Yeah, it's interesting because like by all means it should be kind of funny that Takopi is in this dark fucking reality, but the kids getting abused and like their life circumstances made Takopi not funny at all. You know,
it's not. It's a there's probably some name for that type of character or story style where there's this like oblivious, super happy, I'm gonna try to help and I mess up type character. But yeah, I mean, he's more frustrating in that story than he is helpful or compelling, really. Takopi, that is, so.
You're right, and I think that's like, it's like interesting, right? Because take Bill and Ted's like Bogus Journey or whatever. I know this is a wild comparison, but like they had like Julius Caesar go to like a Chuck E. Cheese's and eat like unlimited ice cream, and that's funny because he's a very serious character and he's not amused at all, but he's in this goofy place and that's funny. And the opposite should work too, where Takopi is in this really grim, dark reality and he's this goofy little starfish guy or whatever, or octopus guy, sorry. But it's just not funny because the reality is so grim, dark that...
Yeah, it's like when he's pretending to be the little girl and getting like abused by her mom and, ending sentences with P or whatever. And you're just like, dude, you gotta stop. You gotta stop. And she's like hitting him and like, yeah.
Stop being a happy little octopus guy, man.
That's an interesting comparison because the sort of, there's an idea that I know we've talked about of in group comedic content or in group writing, any type of comedic writing, anything like that. There's this idea of the straight man, right? Which is like, if all of your characters are just wild, off the wall, bananas, bonkers, people have a hard time relating to that and finding that funny. But when you put one normal person in with a bunch of zany people, it makes a lot of things better. This is the idea behind having like one or two live action actors along with Muppets. They do this because those live action actors are usually the straight man, but they also do some fun twists on it where it's like, Kermit a lot of times is the straight man in his scene, and you'll have the live action actor be the wild, crazy, funny one. But the opposite of that, right? Having sort of one crazy person among a bunch of very straight man, serious type characters, it's not the same impact at all. It is, because yeah, you're right. Takopi's not. I would not say Takopi is a funny series at all. I don't think it's a dark comedy. I think it just has a character that is sort of oblivious and dumb and goofy and chaotic, and that the impact of that in the story by the end is very good. But it's much different from putting a straight man in a goofy series. So that's a really interesting comparison.
Well, yeah, it's kind of wild, right? Because like I feel like in Takopi's case, right? You have the comedy improv little goofy octopus fella, but instead of playing the straight man or yes-anding you, all the characters are like, no, I'm being abused, and you can't really riff off that. It's like yeah, my dog got killed, and I tried to commit suicide. It's like you can't make jokes after that. That's dark and heavy.
Yeah, I mean, the end of chapter 1 is the girl commits suicide. I mean, luckily Takopi has time travel powers for a little bit, but yeah, no, you're right. There is, and you mentioned something which people that are watching or listening might not know about. That's this idea. There's an idea in improv comedy called yes and that is if you're in a scene with someone and you're doing improv or you're doing any kind of even discussions like we have on this podcast, yes and is the idea of someone says something, and if you say, no, we're not doing that. If someone comes into a scene and says, I got a bucket of popcorn, we're in a movie theater, and you go, no, we're on a boat. We're pirates. Like that kills the scene immediately. One of the first things they teach you in improv is everything that someone comes on and says, you say yes to that. You say yes, and then you add more if you want to add more. You could say,
the classic no but.
No, but. But yeah, you're definitely right that, Takopi is not funny. This one seems like it. I think I don't know if it necessarily will be less dark and abusive. I think it will be more balanced with maybe lighthearted character resolution. Maybe they aren't awful in the way that they're abusive, but they're awful in different ways. Like money, they love money or they love sex. Or if we're talking about the 7 deadly sins, right? Maybe lust and gluttony and things like that. Maybe those are more. Their keys, because I mean abuse is not one of the 7 deadly sins, so
yeah so honestly interesting. I'm curious to see how this goes, and I like the art style. It's just...
Me too. I like Taizen 5's art style, the sort of big head. Quote me on this when Takopi gets like a movie or something made, or maybe this gets adapted into an anime someday. The anime will make these characters look like anime characters, and they will not look like this unique art style, and it will lose some of its luster, its flair.
Yeah, you hate to see it.
Yep.
Luckily, that doesn't affect Mob Psycho. They kept one's art style.
Yeah, Mob Psycho is one of the rare runs, and season 1 One Punch Man kept pretty close to Murata style, but Murata style is also like literally perfect. So, anything else on the Ichinose family's deadly sins?
No, not on my end. I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes next week.
Cool. Yeah. So one more thing. You go first. What have you been doing or playing this week? I got another.
Same as you, man. We've been talking about it. God of War. It's been real good.
It's very good. Yep.
I have no idea how far into the game I am.
Do you know how many hours you are?
30.
I think I'm right at 30. I may be at 29:10 or something, but
yeah, it's been great. I have a feeling it'll be like 50 hours or something, so I'm probably over halfway through, but...
I've heard completionist for this is 60, and then if you push story, it's like 24, so if you're doing side stuff, I would guess, 50 plus.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of side stuff.
Yeah.
What do you got? What have you been up to?
It's great, though. I have also pretty much just been playing God of War in all my free time, kind of put a hold on... Well, ran into an issue with the video I was working on. I think I need to step back to the script and redo it a little bit. But also just been playing God of War, took it to that. My one more thing, which is not even out yet, is tomorrow there is a new book coming out by Brandon Sanderson, who is a fantasy author. This is not manga. This is typical novel writing. Called The Lost Metal. It is the final part of a 4-part series in the second series of a 2-part. There's 3 Mistborn books, and then there's a Mistborn Part 2, which is what this is a part of, which this is the 4th book. So I'm very excited for that. There's going to be too many things for me to do in the next 3 or 4 weeks. But those, really like those books. He is a really great author. A lot of the story things that I talk about and that I have learned on the podcast and on the videos and stuff. I learned from Brandon Sanderson reading his stuff and from listening to his podcast, which he does with other writers, called Writing Excuses. So a plug for Writing Excuses, a plug for The Lost Metal by Brandon Sanderson that comes out tomorrow, and a plug for God of War. Really good game. Worth $70. Do we pay $70 for this game now? We did.
Yeah. I'd say it's worth it. Depending on your financial situation and how you consume games.
For sure.
But it's super freaking good, man.
It's very good. It's a very good game. Game of the year? Or is this a lose to Elden Ring?
No, Elden Ring.
I agree.
There's no hesitance coming out of me that it's Elden Ring, even though
not for me either.
Yeah, it's way too good. I got to read more Brando Sando stuff.
Have you read anything?
Or any Brando Sando stuff? Yeah.
I've told
Stormlight
you.
Archive is what I want to read first.
You start with Mistborn. I've told you to read Mistborn a couple times.
Yeah.
Start with Mistborn. It's an easier book to read. Stormlight book 1 is huge and sort of big and sweeping and more of an epic, and Mistborn's much more self-contained, still good writing, awesome magic system. If you like, I'm trying to think of if you like magic systems and stuff like Full Metal Alchemist a little bit, Fire Force, where things are kind of very set in stone on how they work, maybe Nen from Hunter x Hunter. Yeah, those are all magic systems that are sort of Sandersonian, I would say, where they have kind of very strict laws and rules, although something like Fire Force and FMA, I can't even think of a manga that has really strict enough fantasy rules to go into it. A lot of them play pretty loose with the rules, but Sanderson is very much a magic systems guy. That is very much what he's known for. So
I feel like every kind of like show or manga or whatever has to play kind of loose and fast with the rules. I think the most in depth is Hunter x Hunter, probably.
Yeah.
But in a novel, you have time to kind of
for sure
go through everything.
I think you're right. I think that's absolutely a side effect of needing to publish weekly and not knowing exactly what you're going to do. And when you need a new power, you just kind of have to invent it and let it be that way. Brandon writing books, right? He's able to sort of flesh out a magic system, tie it into his story, get to the end, go back and do rewrites. These are luxuries that manga publishers do not have, publishing week to week or every other week or whatever.
Yeah, and reading like a wall of text on like a chapter is going to be boring, whereas like reading in a book is going to be like more interesting.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of Hunter x Hunter wall of text, I've seen the page. I'm not up to date reading it. It's not for me mostly, but I've seen the wall of text. That is bad, but you're absolutely right. Reading walls of text in manga is not. It's a visual medium. It should use its visuals, but a book is much better. But yeah. So, any last thoughts? Anything else to say?
Nope. I will catch you guys next week.
Yeah, thanks for listening or watching. Keep in mind, if you want to support me and this channel, check out my Patreon. That is patreon.com/WGB Manga. Check me out on the rapidly declining Twitter, again, at WGB Manga. You can always find the YouTube channel by searching White, Gray, Black, Gray with an E. We are still the top search result the last I checked. That's on YouTube. Always, thanks for being with us this week. And don't forget to read more manga. Adios.
See you later.